What's going on, Sunbelt fans? My name is Dominic Rossetto. Welcome into the bowl preview for the TicketSmarter Birmingham Bowl. This one's 6:45 Eastern kick on ESPN. We've got Coastal Carolina at 9-3 going up against East Carolina at 7-5. This year, neither team had anybody that they play that is the same, so no common opponents to speak of. They are both 3-2 in their last 5. However, Coastal Carolina, having played in the championship game for the Sun Belt, did lose their last 2 games. Meanwhile, ECU went 1-2 in their last games and won their last game in quite the shootout versus Temple, 49-46. So they did put up a lot of points in that one. But again, no common opponents, so there's not a real great measuring stick to kind of see how they stack up. This one's just going to be flat out who comes out with a better defense, honestly, because both teams statistically are very close across the board. Interestingly enough, I didn't see a large disparity that makes me pick one team ahead of the other, except for those last 2 games that were a really big struggle for Coastal Carolina to get through. As far as players to watch on both sides of the ball, obviously we got Grayson McCall leading the way for Coastal, but he's been banged up. He went for 2,633 yards passing for this year, 24 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions. So obviously we've talked about it before. We'll say it again. He makes really good decisions. If he doesn't think he likes what he sees, he's either going to tuck it and run and scramble a little bit, or he's going to be smart enough to throw it away. So Coastal fans aren't going to have a lot of concern about his decision-making. It's really just, is he 100%? And since that App State game where he got banged up, he has not looked 100% just yet. So it'll be interesting to see what he's looking like in this game. And if he plays to his full potential, that will be a huge plus for the Coastal Carolina side. Obviously, running the ball, they're going to lean heavily on C.J. Beasley, gone over 700 yards on the season, 4 touchdowns total, but McCall also keeps it a lot there in the red zone. He's gone for 5 total touchdowns. And then obviously you've got Reese White, who can break it out as well. Only 487 on the season, but 4 touchdowns as well. So they've got 3 guys really, once they get into that red zone, that you're going to be leaning on. Beasley, White, and McCall can keep it. Those are the guys you're going to be looking out for on the ground. As far as through the air, you've got Sam Pinckney. We knew how good he was at Georgia State. He transfers to Coastal Carolina, puts up great numbers there as well, over 900 yards on the season. Only 3 touchdowns, though. So once they get to the red zone, they actually look a little bit more towards Jared Brown. He's got double that. He's got 6 touchdowns on the season, gone over 780 yards total. And then you throw in Tyson Mobley and Xavier Gravette. Probably butchered that last name. But you've got 7 touchdowns between the 2 of them. So again, near that red zone area, they're really going to open up that playbook, get the tight end involved a little bit more than you usually see there, because Jenkins, the other tight ends, also has 5 touchdowns as well. So again, once they get near that red zone, they're not just necessarily going to run it up the gut like a lot of teams break down to just trying to hammer it in. They will have some movement in the backfield, even run some jet sweeps that close to the goal line, which a lot of teams kind of get away from because you're going lateral instead of vertical there, but they're not afraid to do it. They've got the team speed and the kind of trick playbook that could work in their favor in that regard. As far as the kicking game goes, you've got Hensley there. Not great from a better, far out distance, but nothing to worry about up close, probably 30 yards and under, no concern there. Once you get into those distance kicks, he's actually pretty good from 40 to 49. He's 4.5, but 30 to 39, he's 0 for 2. So it's a kind of a weird aspect to that kicking game, but don't have a whole lot of concerns about the kicking game for Coastal going into this one. Defensively, JT Killen, 90 total tackles on the season, 2.5 sacks, but also look out for Jared Clark. We talked about him in the championship game. He became a factor a little bit later. He had a little bit of a slow start, as did the entire Coastal Carolina team, but 3.5 sacks on the season. He's just a beast in the middle there, 40 total tackles. So he will get into the backfield and force your guys backwards for ECU on the day. His sack yardage was 28. So big-time player for them to focus on. And then Josiah Stewart had a decent season, but he's been transferred to Michigan, and I believe that he won't play in this game. I could be wrong. If he does not, Adrian Hope is definitely the linebacker. Watch out for it. Not a ton of tackles total on the season, but he did have 6.5 sacks, which leads the team. So you're definitely going to watch out for Hope being in the backfield there. As far as the defensive backfield's concerned, look out for Lance Boykin. 2 interceptions on the season, 7 pass defended. So he's going to be around the ball quite a bit, but we know from what we've seen the last 2 weeks especially, they are susceptible in the secondary, and unfortunately that's not going to be a great matchup for them against East Carolina. As we jump into the other side of the ball, they've got Holton Ahlers, who seems to have been in college for about 8 years. He's gone over 3,000 yards for the season, 3,408 to be exact, 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. So actually a lot like the other side of the ball. Going to make good decisions, going to be a quality passer. Obviously, like I said, he's got the experience. He's been around this game a long time. So I don't have any problem trusting what Ahlers is going to be able to provide for East Carolina. I think their fans and their fan base likes what he has done. He's not the most fleet of foot. He's actually a pretty big guy. So if they need 1 or 2 yards, expect him to get the direct snap and just take it right up the gut and just try and pound that ball in there. But as far as a huge scrambler, yes, he can run, but he's not going to do it often. He's not going to be really successful in that regard. He is the 4th leading running back or rushing player on the team, but he's only done it 65 times, and he's only gone for 134 yards with an average of 2.1. So again, this isn't the guy who's going to be breaking it down and then running for 20 yards at a clip. I mean, he's going to get 3-4 yards every once in a while when they need it. So not really fleet of foot to worry about there. But the guy you are going to want to watch out for is Keaton Mitchell. 1,325 yards on the season, 7.4 average for 13 touchdowns. The guy's a beast. He's small, short, hard to find maybe out of that backfield, and that's why he's had so much success. I mean, just electrifying. This guy is to watch it. Even when you're on the other side of the ball, it's going to be fun to watch this guy in this bowl game tonight. As far as the backups, I mean, you're probably going to see some other handoffs, but Rajah Harris is probably the most weapon. The most other guy they'll lean on is Rajah Harris. He's got 5 touchdowns on the season, but he's only got 238 yards. Ahlers has as many touchdowns as him and only half as many yards. Again, this is that thing, down near short yardage. These 2 guys maybe get the ball more than Mitchell because he is a little bit smaller in stature. But this guy, you give Mitchell the ball out of the backfield and he's bound to hurt you eventually. As far as receiving, you've got Isaiah Winstead. Only 4 touchdowns on the season, but he's gone over 1,000 yards. So he's going to be picking up a lot of that yardage further back. And it looks like C.J. Johnson, he's a huge target. I think he's about 6'5", 6'4", something like that. He's 933 yards, 9 touchdowns on the season. Those are their top 2 targets for sure. But again, they're also spreading it out towards the tight end there. 4 touchdowns on the season for Ryan Jones. So again, you got to be looking out for that. Keaton Mitchell can actually catch the ball out of the backfield pretty well as another option there. He does have a long of 73 yards. So not afraid to use Keaton Mitchell. He is the weapon. He is probably their best player on offense. And then I'd lean heavily towards C.J. Johnson just because of his size over Winstead, even though Winstead has a little bit more of the statistics on his side. As far as the kicking game goes, they've got 2 for the season, Conrad and Dafer. Neither one of them have been great, and that's why they've been going to 2. I don't know who we're going to see more of in this game specifically, but the kicking game definitely favors Coastal Carolina in this one. You have 2 kickers, you don't have any, right? Because you're looking at who can be better for you. So if it gets into a kicking game, favor Coastal Carolina there. As far as defense goes, nobody even really got that close to 100 total tackles on the season for them defensively, and that's where their downside has been. Julius Wood has 82 total tackles at the safety position, 4 pass breakups, 2 interceptions, probably their best all-around defender, but they do have 2 linebackers in Barry and Lewis who combine for 6 total sacks on the season. So their linebacking core seems to be pretty solid. It's kind of that defensive backfield where you've got another question. much like Georgia Southern that we spoke about earlier too with their matchup. That may be their weakest point on the field. Maybe safety position is the strongest out of that. Their corners don't seem to be real threats. But again, this is where those quarterbacks making those good decisions, probably not going to see a lot out of the defensive backfields for either team. So overall, what are we looking at here? I expect from what we've seen statistically out of these teams to see a lot of the points that are actually scored in this one in the first half. Both teams seem to trail off a little bit toward the end, and if somebody's going to be favored towards the end, certainly look for ECU to be the stronger team to last longer. Part of that comes from Ayler's experience in this college game and in a conference as strong as the AAC has been. I don't think they're going to be as strong going forward. I think Sun Belt should take over there pretty well. But again, they've had years of great teams in that conference before next season starts out. So they've got experience down the stretch in tough games. They just beat Temple in that shootout again at the end of the year while you've got Coastal struggling towards the end of the year. I'm favoring ECU in this one. I just think that longevity prevails here and experience also blustered with the really good electrifying player that Keaton Mitchell is. I think he's going to be the guy who's probably the MVP of this game, catching the ball out of the backfield, running the ball, and hey, maybe he even throws a pass in this one, and they get a little crazy. So I still think it's a close game, though, because Coastal can put up points. They may struggle to stop ECU a little bit, but I think they'll still score a little bit better than they have these past two games. I'm thinking that McCall's going to be a little stronger than he has been with this time to recover. So I am favoring ECU in this one. 30, Coastal Carolina 28 should be a good one. As a more of a nightcap, that's 6:45 p.m. Eastern start. A lot more people be able to see this one over that Georgia Southern game that starts at noon. But hopefully Sunbelt can end strong, and I can be wrong on this pick. But as far as my money's concerned, it is on ECU and the Pirates. Thanks for listening.